Hi Aquarius, this is your November astrology for all Aquarius signs, sun, moon, rising, and Venus in Aquarius. Now, if you're not used to watching my videos and you're coming to it under like Venus being in Aquarius, I want you to say first off that typically when I am doing astrology, I don't see Venus as love. I know a lot of other people do, but I do not. I typically see it as our sensitivity, whether it's positive or negative, and how we let that run, more or less, how well it runs for us positively or negatively. Now, I tell you that because if you're looking for this to be a love reading, I'm sorry, but I am so not your girl. That's just not the way that I see it in astrology. So I wanted to throw that out there first off. Second off, I want to apologize for being a little late getting your video out. Long story short, my best friend passed away, and he's an Aquarius. So I kind of left you for last because I just wasn't prepared to deal with it yet. But with that being said, the first thing that Spirit is bringing up to me is there's definitely something going on with the community, with the larger groups or the memberships, and how that affects your goals, your social foundation, and financial success. There's something going on in that area that you should be noticing. Some of you are going to be dealing with family inheritances, whether it is money or things. Some of you are definitely going over morals, spiritual morals, ethics, your higher mind, and getting to a new level of that. Is there anything else? And I'm assuming the way that they're putting it is that higher mind, your ethics, your morals, your spiritual urges are coming into a new level of understanding, because part of that hidden self, part of that subconscious energy is rising. And in a form, I like to call it facing off, like you're in, like it would be like your sun sign and your moon sign looking at each other in a way. You're interfacing off. Your subconscious is rising and making you see things from a new light, is more or less what I'm getting because what they're giving to me is hidden self. So it may also be parts of yourself that you keep hidden from everybody else. You may not even acknowledge that you do it, but it's something that is rising and making you acknowledge it. But it's definitely going to be dealing with the memberships, the community, those larger goals, the memberships, the community, the larger groups that directly affect your goals, your dreams, your desires, and how that actually plays out in the social foundation or financial success. Something about that hidden self, that subconscious is coming up and making you see your way through it. I am getting like reincarnation, resurrection, but I'm getting that all across the board. That is kind of happening to be part of the energy just of November in general. And they're saying something about you're going to find parts of your own hidden talents, your hidden you, that's going to should help you with, raising your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. Something's also going on with the head and the heart, trying to see eye to eye, or maybe not seeing eye to eye on exactly where your fate would be, your destiny, where you should be going. But it's definitely also speaking to you of what I call the sacral chakra, because it's Mars energy. But I connect Mars energy to the sacral chakra, and that's how we feel about ourselves. But it's passion, action, aggression, fire kind of energy about how you feel about it. I feel like it's coming into a new confidence in self by learning some things about self. All right, with that being said, is there anything else? Okay. With that being said, I like to just run down what the planets are that are moving and let you know what they are and what those dates are, and then I go into each house. Sorry, I was making sure I wasn't hearing something else. Anyway, obviously on October 31st, the Mercury went retrograde. Now, that does mean our communication is a little bit more inward, and when we get into the houses, we'll go over exactly where that is, but it's in Scorpio for you. It's going to be in retrograde until the 20th of November. However, it's not there alone. It is going to be there with the sun until the 22nd, when the sun moves into Sagittarius. And Mars will be moving in on the 19th. In fact, I'm just going to wait until I get to that part, because something's going on with Mars, and I feel a lot of people, you're coming into understanding pieces about what Mars is going to help put into action. And I'm feeling like it's going to really, things are going to start really going into action and changing when the new moon comes on the 26th. But I feel like kind of prior to that, this is kind of like a long full moon. Like a lot of things that are being brought to the surface so that you can release, surrender, and let go. But there are things that have to be learned on a longer process. We are dealing with the new moon coming in at the end of the month on the 26th, and it is going to have, it's the second new moon in Scorpio. So that's kind of what I'm talking about right now. Like, we're going through a process from one new moon to another new moon, but they're both taking place in Scorpio. So kind of it's a long period of a new moon with a lot of full moon energy helping build that brand new beginning, brand new change that's coming in and helping us to understand that. But I am being told some of you are very much stubborn and inflexible and very much caught in your coulda, shoulda, woulda. And when I say coulda, shoulda, woulda, I'm like saying, I wish it would have happened this way, and then I would have done that. I could have done this. I should have said that. If I coulda, shoulda, woulda. If you're holding on to the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, they will drive you batshit crazy. And I feel like some of you are very stubborn and inflexible about change. And that's actually going to hold you back. You're holding on to some bitter and blame, too. For at least many of you. Which will actually, like I said, hold you back. All right. On the 1st and on the 8th, the 1st, Venus moved into Sagittarius. On the 8th, Pallas moves into Sagittarius. On the 4th, Ura moves into Libra with Haumea and Make. Like I said, we're going to go over every house in a minute. On the 12th, you have the full moon, which is taking place in Taurus. On, I believe it's the 16th, but I might be wrong. It may be the 17th. It's just the way that I'm looking at it on my chart. I maybe have it slightly off. But Ceres will be leaving Jupiter, leaving leaving Sagittarius and moving into Capricorn with Pluto and Saturn. That is going to change that that's going to change that Pluto and Saturn's energy, but it's going to change the Capricorn's energy altogether. Because Ceres is the threefold theory. It's karma, but it also speaks to us about what we nurture or what we neglect. On the 19th, Mars moves into Scorpio. The 20th, Mercury goes direct. On the 22nd, the sun leaves Scorpio and moves into Sagittarius. On the 25th, Venus moves into Capricorn. Now, most people usually, when they first hear this, they miss this part. Venus moved into Sagittarius on the 1st. It's moving out on the 25th and into Capricorn. So I'm not saying that Venus is uncomfortable in Sagittarius. That's not true. But Venus is very comfortable. She's not staying there long. She's like, wing, bang, boom, and I'm off and into the next situation. So she is going to definitely come through and either bless the situation or curse it. And I don't mean it like as in cursing and is in a bad thing, but kind of going, yes, I love this. This is awesome. We're great. I love this. This is, I'm very sensitive in very good ways about this. Or I'm very unhappy with this. I very much don't like it. I'm very dissatisfied. I'm very resentful and I'm uncomfortable. And you're going to be one of the two, depending on the situation of where Sagittarius and Venus is taking you. Throwing that information out really fast and then jumping into Capricorn at the end of the month. So she's got no time to play. She's going to be dishing that out, whether it's good or bad. Now, on the 26th, you have the new moon again in Scorpio, where you'll have Mars there at that time. The sun will have just moved out. And then on the 27th, we have Neptune, which is finally going direct. That is a very powerful piece of information, which means all month, Neptune is giving you its last pieces of information that it's been trying to get through your head while it's been in retrograde. Jupiter also is moving on December 3rd. So Jupiter is giving you its last pieces of information of what it's been trying to teach you and help you with all year, because it moves into Capricorn as well. So this month is very much a preparation month, getting that shit together, and then let's move forward. However, a lot of you are holding on to a lot of frustration. And some of this has to do with the throat chakra and the heart chakra. Karmic lessons is what they're saying. Karmic lessons about knowing how and what and when and where to speak your truth, as well as unblock heart issues. Anything else? Yeah, you might be very sensitive because the Venus energy is popping back up. All right, with that being said, let me pull out my information here. Okay, Aquarius, first off, you don't have anything going on in the very first house. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just there's nothing going for you or against you. You're in your normal Aquarius energy for the first house. And the first house is the house of self. It's your self-awareness, your physical body, your personality, your appearance, your very identification. It's how you view life, your image. It's the core of who and what you are, as well as your egotistical side. So you're in your normal Aquarius energy. I'm sorry, I have to stop for a second. Something is definitely going on with the eyes, at least for some of you. What I'm getting is like a negative energy, and then it's hurting my eyes. So something is being brought that you are literally going to see, brought up to the surface, that you're not going to be able to, turn your head to and block and pretend that you don't acknowledge it. Either there's something going on with the eyes, the third eye chakra and the eyes, and elevating or dealing with blocks or healing within that energy. And if it's not that, then it's definitely something is being brought to the surface that your eyes are actually going to physically see, forcing you to acknowledge something. Because like I said, I'm getting like a negative energy that's holding on to that stubborn and flexible energy. But it's definitely affecting the eyes. So it's one of the two. Either it's the head being clogged up because of the third eye chakra in some form, or it's seeing something. Either way, okay. Back to the astrology. Your house, your first house, your self-awareness house, there's nothing there to change who you are, to influence it for a bad, positive, negative, anything. It's your normal energy. Now, your second house though is where is pretty much been speaking to that very first house. And you've had Neptune here for a long time. So that's nothing unusual, other than this retrograde for Neptune is not its typical retrograde. And your second house is your self-worth, your self-value, your self-esteem. And it also speaks to you about, your close possessions. And I mean close possessions like a phone, something close and movable, something that's important to you, but it's also how you create and spend your money, like how you create and spend your money, on things like that. The more you have a higher level of self-worth, self-value, and self-esteem, typically the easier that flow of the possessions that you own and your very way of creating money resonates more with you than against you. So the thing is, Neptune is going direct at the end of the month. Now, Neptune has been pulling in a little bit of negative energy, and Lilith is right there on top of it. Lilith is actually trying to bring a positive energy, the way I see it. But the thing is, Neptune's orbit, the way Neptune's orbit moves, is kind of passing through Halley's Comet's orbit right now. They're like crossing each other. We're not able to see that. It's not anything that we see here. But the situation, because we won't see Halley's Comet until like 2040, or 2046, I think it is, because I think I just was corrected. But the orbit is still crossing each other, and what's happening is Halley's Comet, being a comet, is bringing in like some negative, harsher aspects to what Lilith and Neptune are going through in that retrograde, with Lilith being right on top of it. So Neptune is how we create and spend our magic. How we create and spend. Listen to me. How we create our magic is magic for all intents and purposes. Now, we can create magic very positively or very ill-willed. Let me put it to you this way. Neptune is where fantasy smacks you in the face with harsh reality. But it's also where we get confused over nostalgia, because we look back at something and want to view it this way, but maybe it wasn't exactly the way we want to view it. And we're trying to recreate it in our mind to be better than it was. So we're telling ourselves something that really wasn't true because we like that idea better. It's where illusion and delusion gets itself confused. Neptune has the ability to create all magic, but so do you with your free will. Now, this is saying with Lilith here, Lilith is asking Neptune to where is your fire? Where is your inner fire? Where do you burn for you? It's your inner sexual temptress, so it's your sacral chakra. Okay? At the same time, this is again how you feel about yourself, and do you have confidence in yourself because of how you feel about yourself, bringing it to your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. But like I said, with that orbit of Halley's Comet and Neptune on top of that energy, it may be bringing up things about that sacral chakra where you don't have confidence, where you aren't feeling very good about yourself. Like I say, when you look in the mirror and you're like, yeah, I look good today. We all have those days, but we all also have those days where we look in the mirror and we're like, what the fuck happened here, okay? This is what I'm talking about. How you feel about yourself is what I call the inner belly dancer. It is kind of like Mars energy. It's your inner warrior, passion, action, aggression, fire. But with Lilith, it becomes more of a little bit more self-centered. And how can I burn for me? This is about me. This is for me. This is my time. is how Lilith brings that energy in. And she's asking you, when is self-worth, self-value, self-esteem going to be on the top of the list for you to burn in your time? But you're going to be acknowledging things about you that have been getting in your way because they're parts of yourself you haven't healed. And as you heal them, it brings back that self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. Changes that universal first house for your self-awareness, your personality, your appearance, your view of life, your identification, your image, your physical body. Like I said, that sacral chakra. She's trying to tweak it, but there are darker aspects about pieces you hide from yourself that are being brought to the surface, trying to help you heal. Now, in the third house for you is Aries. Chiron is here. Now, the third house is ruled by Mercury in the first place, and Mercury is in retrograde, which means our communication systems is kind of a little on the fritz. And what I mean by that is, in Mercury retrograde, we communicate more with ourselves than we do with everybody else. We kind of over inward babble to ourselves, whether it's good or bad. Usually it's more of the bad because it's in retrograde. So it's kind of picking things apart, but not always. And while Mercury is not in Aries, it still rules the third house. It doesn't rule Aries, but it rules the third house. So your communication, you want to definitely pay attention to your details, your intellect, your trivia, your gossip, your cell phones, your text messages, especially with your siblings and neighbors and what's close to you. But you have Chiron also in here. Aries for you is it's a beginning point. It's also a little bit of a me first energy. But you get bored with something that doesn't amuse you or doesn't keep you entertained very quickly. And this is saying slow down. There's a part of this you're getting bored with things too quickly that isn't working for you because Chiron is here. There's a bigger picture in this communication if you can be open-minded, larger viewed to see what that lesson of that communication is. But you have Eris at the other end of Aries, which is trouble, toil, strife. So like I said, those pieces of that communication and that inward communication, because Mercury is in retrograde, kind of picking away at you. This is picking away at you, not for you to explode on other people, but for you to learn something about yourself, about how you communicate with yourself as well as with others, and in ways of how to bring a new level of healing forward and take a new beginning. Chiron's going to be in this energy for a long time, but you're in a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which is all about birth, death, and rebirth. Okay, so it's definitely bringing back to that second house self-worth, self-value, self-esteem. There's something here to learn about the very communication as well as the energy with the siblings and the neighbors. And there's a piece of making you want to hold on to resentment, trouble, toil, strife, because it's easier with that Mercury retrograde. And Eris. Eris is the one that got served injustice. She's who I call Medusa. Like I said, this is Chiron. The wounded healer in here is trying to assess where the communication is not good to yourself as well as to others. Now, that universal fourth house for you is where your full moon will take place. The full moon will take place on the 12th. And it's going to take place in Taurus. Now, the thing is, the fourth house is our home. I mean, it is our materialistic home. But it is also the home, the vessel that carries the soul. So, you can't ever get away from the home. It is the roots of who and what we are. It's also the child that grew up to create the person you are because of those roots. So this speaks to our inner emotional security. And there's karmic lessons here about learning a different level of depth of your real self. Because full moon, release, surrender, let go, bringing things to light. Full moon with Taurus goes right back to asking you about your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and loving yourself enough to truly shine and be comfortable and confident with your independence, your individuality, your uniqueness, your freedom, and your inventive energy. Bringing that self-worth, self-value, and self-esteem to a new height. But there's pieces about your independence, individuality, uniqueness, freedom, self-worth, self-value, self-esteem that you're fighting with. There's pieces like that you'd rather have in the closet, like the skeleton in the closet, and there are pieces that you're not really bringing to light. You're not really bringing out for the world to see, which is keeping you from getting really deep to the true self and the roots of your inner emotional security. And these things are probably going to be coming up around that full moon energy, around the 12th, helping you to see things, not to, I say, change about yourself, but to accept, love, and then allow part of your true authenticness to become more rich, more bold, more you, in levels that you're not quite used to. Now, in the 5th house, like I said, that's the full moon energy around the 12th. Now, on the 5th house doesn't have anything here. It's Gemini. This is where there's no planets here other than when the moon travels through. There's always like 3 days, 3 days, the moon travels through every sign. Now, this is your pursuit of pleasure. This is your creativity, your child, your inner child. This is your creative expression. How you enjoy life. Well, are you enjoying life is the first question. Gemini is, I call it Jekyll and Hyde. And not because it's positive or negative, but because Gemini, it's either you're full on in your emotions for whatever those emotions are, for the right or wrong reasons. You're full on in them, or you're completely out and it's all logical. You're the twins. So the emotions have their place, even if they don't make any sense, even if they're just running you over. Or you're all logical and then there's no emotion at all. It's like one of the two. So this is asking you to tap into what makes you happy. Tap into the two of them at the same time. Help yourself to understand your pursuit of pleasure, your inner child. What makes the inner child happy? What brings that creativity forward? What is it that you enjoy in life? And are you getting to experience it? Are you getting to have that chance? Because like I said, if you're out of balance, then your emotions are going to be out of balance. And you're going to be more emotional about not being able to enjoy life. About not being able to let that inner child play. And let it come to the surface. And when you're out of balance and you can't let that inner child play, you can't get right with your creative expression. Because, like I said, you're either emotions or you're logical. If you can't balance it, then that's also going to keep you away from your inner emotional security, your true depths of self, and take you even further away from your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and how you communicate to yourself about all of that. Now, that's your first 5 houses. I'm going to start part 2 with the 6th house through the 12th house, simply because they talk too much. And I only can put like a half-hour video out. Otherwise, it just shuts off. So please come back for part 2. I love you guys.